Marcus learned about compound interest in ninth grade. He remembers it clearly, not because the lesson was particularly vivid, but because his teacher, a man named Mr. Aldridge, who wore the same three sweaters on rotation and had a habit of writing formulas on the board before explaining what they were for, held up a single sheet of paper and said something Marcus never forgot. He said, "This is the most powerful force in the known universe." He was quoting Einstein, or claiming to quote Einstein, and the room was mostly unimpressed because they were 14 and the most powerful force in the known universe felt very far away from a Tuesday morning in a classroom that smelled like dry erase markers and cafeteria pizza. But Marcus wrote it down. He remembered it. He got an A on the exam. He could reproduce the formula, principal times 1 plus rate to the power of time, and he understood what it meant in the abstract. Money grows on itself. The longer it grows, the faster it grows. Start early, earn more. He understood it the way you understand the rules of a game you've never played. What Mr. Aldridge did not show Marcus, what no teacher in any classroom Marcus ever sat in showed him, was the other side of the formula. The same equation, the same exponential curve, the same ruthless, compounding, accelerating math, running in reverse, running on every debt Marcus would carry in his 20s. Running on the car loan and the student loans and the credit card he opened at 22 because the sign-up bonus was a free duffel bag and the interest rate was something he planned to never trigger because he was going to pay the balance in full every month. He did not pay the balance in full every month. And the formula Mr. Aldridge wrote on the board in September of 1998 started running on Marcus's money immediately in the opposite direction from everything the textbook had promised. This is the video about what they taught you and what they left out. It is about the exact same mathematical principle, the one Einstein allegedly called the most powerful force in the universe, and the way it operates simultaneously as the engine of wealth and the engine of debt, depending entirely on which side of the equation you are standing on. And in the first decade of most people's financial lives, most people are standing on the wrong side, not because they are careless, not because they weren't paying attention in ninth grade, but because the lesson was only ever taught from one direction, and the other direction is where the real money goes. Let's start where the lesson always starts, with the magic side. If you invest $10,000 at age 25 and never add another dollar, and that money earns 10% per year on average, you will have approximately $28,000 by age 35. By age 45, you will have $74,000. By age 55, you will have $189,000. And by age 65, you will have $452,000 from a single $10,000 investment made at 25, from doing nothing, from leaving it alone for 40 years and letting the formula run. This is what Mr. Aldridge showed Marcus. This is the magic. This is the visual that makes people lean forward, the chart that curves upward at the end like a hockey stick, the illustration of why starting early matters more than almost anything else in retirement planning. It is real. Every number in that sequence is accurate. The formula works exactly as advertised. Now here is what Mr. Aldridge did not show Marcus. If you borrow $10,000 at 25, a personal loan, a portion of a student loan, a credit card balance, and that debt carries an interest rate of 18% per year, and you make only minimum payments, the same formula runs in the opposite direction with the same exponential aggression. By year 3, you have paid hundreds of dollars in monthly minimums and your balance has barely moved because the majority of each payment is being consumed by interest before a single dollar touches principal. By year 7, if you have continued making minimum payments faithfully, you may still owe more than half the original balance. The total amount you will pay over the full life of that debt, if you allow the minimum payment schedule to run its course, will be approximately $22,000 to $26,000 on a $10,000 original balance. You will pay 2.5 times what you borrowed, not because you were irresponsible, because the formula ran. The formula always runs. The only question is which direction it is running and whether you are the one it is running for. Marcus had three financial instruments operating in his life by the time he was 23. He had a checking account earning 0.01% interest, so close to zero that the compounding on it was mathematically invisible. He had a credit card with an $1,800 balance carrying 21.99% interest that he'd been paying the minimum on for 8 months. And he had $17,600 in student loans at an average rate of 5.8% that had been accruing interest since the day each loan was disbursed, a detail he had not fully processed because he was focused on finishing school, not on the formula running quietly on every loan statement he wasn't opening. Compound interest was operating in Marcus's financial life in three places simultaneously. In one of those places, it was building wealth at a rate so close to zero, it was indistinguishable from nothing. In the second, it was extracting money from him at 22%. And in the third, it was adding to his student loan balance at 5.8% during the 6-month grace period after graduation before he'd made a single payment in a process called capitalization, where the interest that accrues while you're in school gets added to your principal balance so that when repayment begins, you are paying interest on interest before the clock even officially starts. Nobody explained capitalization to Marcus at the loan signing table. There was a disclosure somewhere in the paperwork. It was on page 11 of a document he was handed while also being handed 4 other documents and being told to initial here, here, and here. The formula was running. He just couldn't see it yet. Here is the number that made Marcus physically still when he finally calculated it at 37. Over the 14 years between his first student loan disbursement and the day he finished paying off his loans, including the 2 early payoffs we discussed in the last chapter, the ones that felt like wins but had hidden opportunity costs, Marcus paid a total of $27,840 toward a $17,600 original loan balance. The difference, $10,240, was pure interest, money that left his account and built nothing, money that compounded in the wrong direction toward zero equity and zero asset base and zero retirement account balance for 14 years, $10,240 that, if invested at 23 instead of handed to a loan servicer over 14 years, would have grown to approximately $38,000 by the time Marcus was 37. He did not lose $10,240. He lost $38,000. That is what compound interest on the wrong side of the equation costs. Not the interest you pay, the investment that interest payment was not allowed to become, and the student loans were the cheap debt. At 5.8% they were, by the framework we established in the last chapter, sitting below the threshold where aggressive payoff beats investing. The credit card was a different story entirely. Marcus carried that $1,800 credit card balance for 11 months before he paid it off. He paid minimum payments for 10 of those months and then cleared the remaining balance in month 11 when a tax refund came in. His minimum payments averaged $45 per month. Over 11 months, he paid $495 in minimums and then cleared approximately $1,620 in the final payoff. Total paid $2,115 on a $1,800 balance. Total interest, $315. That number sounds manageable. It sounds like a relatively small price for 11 months of having $1,800 available to him. What it doesn't sound like is the other calculation, the one where $1,800 invested at 22 years old, left untouched in the market for 43 years until retirement at 65, becomes approximately $108,000 at a 10% average annual return. $315 in credit card interest to delay investing $1,800 for 11 months cost Marcus $108,000. The formula was not his enemy. The formula was neutral. It runs for whoever sets it in motion. Marcus set it in motion for his creditors for 11 months before he accidentally set it in motion for himself by finally clearing the balance. This is the conversation that never happens in ninth grade because ninth grade financial education, where it exists at all, is designed to teach the concept, not the application. The concept is clean and inspiring. Money grows over time, start early, be patient. The application is messier and more uncomfortable because it requires acknowledging that the same growth mechanism is actively running against most students before they've ever had a chance to run it for themselves. The average American graduates from college with approximately $29,000 in student loan debt. The average credit card balance carried by Americans under 35 is approximately $4,200. The average car loan balance for the same demographic is $21,000. Before a 22-year-old has made a single intentional investment decision, they are often sitting at the origin point of three separate compound interest curves running against them simultaneously on a combined balance that can easily exceed $50,000. At an average blended interest rate across those three categories of perhaps 8%, that $50,000 in debt generates $4,000 in interest in the first year alone, $4,000 that did not exist when the year started, $4,000 that was produced by the formula without requiring any additional borrowing. The debt is growing on its own. The debt is compounding. And while it compounds, the investments that should also be compounding are not being funded because the income that should be going into them is going toward debt service instead. This is the trap, not the debt itself. Debt is a tool and tools are neutral. The trap is the decade that gets consumed by compound interest running in the wrong direction before the investor ever gets the formula pointed the right way. Every year of compound growth in your 20s that goes to debt service instead of investment is worth more than any year of compound growth in your 50s. Not slightly more, dramatically more, because the 20s years had 4 additional decades to compound before retirement. The 50s years have 15. The money you put to work at 22 is worth more than the money you put to work at 42, not because you are younger and more energetic and optimistic, because the formula has more time to run, and the formula is exponential. An extra 20 years at the beginning is not twice as valuable as 20 years in the middle. It is roughly 6 times as valuable depending on the rate of return. Every year you spend on the wrong side of the compound interest equation in your 20s is therefore one of the most expensive years of your financial life, even though it almost never feels that way at the time. Marcus felt it most acutely when he ran the full projection. Not the debt numbers, those he'd known for years. The projection of what he would have had if the formula had been running for him instead of against him from age 22. If Marcus had invested the average amount he spent on debt service in his 20s, not extra money, not money from a raise, just the monthly debt payments he was making anyway, from age 22 to age 32, and then stopped contributing entirely and simply let that accumulated balance compound for the following 33 years until retirement, he would have arrived at 65 with a balance of approximately $780,000. Instead, by 32, Marcus had finished paying off his car loan, was still carrying student loan debt, and had approximately $19,000 in his 401k. The formula had been running against him for 10 years, and for him for almost none of that time. $780,000 versus $19,000. That is the cost of the lesson Mr. Aldridge did not teach. Not because Mr. Aldridge was negligent, because the curriculum was incomplete, because we teach compound interest as an asset and never as a liability, because the inspiring version of the story, money grows, start early, be patient, is true and also dangerously partial. The complete version of the story is this: compound interest is a force of nature, and it does not care whose side it is on. Point it at your investments and it builds wealth with a relentlessness that eventually feels miraculous. Point it at your debts and it extracts wealth with the same relentlessness and the same exponential curve and the same completely indifferent mathematical precision. Your only job, the only financial decision that matters more than any other in the first decade of your adult life, is to figure out which direction the formula is running and to do whatever is necessary to reverse the directions that are running against you before the early years of compounding are gone forever. They are the most valuable years. They feel like the most constrained years. They feel like the years when nothing is possible because the rent is high and the salary is low and the loans are real and the emergency fund doesn't exist yet and the future feels very far from where you are standing. They feel like the years to survive, not the years to invest. But they are the years when the formula has the most time to run. And surviving them without the formula running for you is the most expensive decision most people never realize they're making. Here is exactly what to do to get the formula working for you as quickly as possible, regardless of where you are right now. Step 1. List every debt you carry and calculate the total interest you will pay over the life of each debt at your current payment pace. Not the monthly payment, not the remaining balance. The total interest from today until the debt is eliminated, assuming no changes. Most loan servicers will calculate this for you if you ask. For credit cards, use a minimum payment calculator available free at any major financial website. Input your balance, your interest rate, and your minimum payment, and it will tell you the total interest and the payoff timeline. Write these numbers down, make them real. The monthly payment feels manageable because it is designed to feel manageable. The total interest number is designed to never be seen all at once. See it all at once. That number is what the formula extracts from you if you let the debt run on its natural schedule. Step 2. Identify the highest rate debt you carry and calculate what the minimum payment on that debt would become as an investment instead. Take the monthly minimum payment on your highest rate debt. Put that number into a compound interest calculator, again free, everywhere online. Enter a 10% annual return and the number of years until your retirement. Look at the number that comes out. That number is the investment the debt payment is not becoming every single month for as long as you carry the debt. Make this number visible every time you consider making only a minimum payment. You are not choosing between paying a debt and not paying a debt. You are choosing between giving that monthly payment to the formula running against you and redirecting it to the formula running for you. See the choice in those terms every single time. Step 3. Attack high-rate debt with the avalanche method immediately, using every dollar available above your essential expenses and your employer 401k match. The avalanche method means making minimum payments on every debt and directing every additional dollar toward the highest rate debt first, eliminating it completely, then rolling the full payment amount into the next highest rate debt. This is not the popular method. The popular method, the snowball, which pays off smallest balances first, produces faster psychological wins because you eliminate accounts quickly and feel momentum. The avalanche produces the fastest mathematical result because you eliminate the most expensive compounding first. If you carry a credit card at 22% and a personal loan at 11% and a car loan at 5%, you attack the 22% with everything you have. You pay minimums on the 11% and the 5%. When the 22% is gone, you redirect its full payment into the 11%. When the 11% is gone, you redirect again. You are systematically dismantling the curves running against you in order of their aggression. Step 4. The day any high-rate debt is eliminated, immediately redirect the full previous payment amount into an investment account without letting it touch your lifestyle. This is the critical inflection point and the most commonly missed one. When a debt is paid off, the monthly payment that was going to the creditor disappears from the budget and almost universally gets absorbed into spending within 90 days. It was always there in the cash flow, it was always survivable, and now that it's gone, the money finds somewhere else to go before an intentional decision is made about where it should go. Preempt this by setting up the investment automatic transfer before the final debt payment clears. The transfer should be scheduled to begin the same month the debt ends. Same amount, same date, different destination. The cash flow doesn't change. The direction changes. The formula flips. Step 5. If you are under 30 and carrying student loans at rates below 7%, Do not sacrifice Roth IRA contributions to accelerate payoff. This is the rule that runs directly counter to the instinct the debt number produces. When you see $29,000 in student loans, the instinct is to eliminate it. When you understand that the Roth IRA contribution you make at 23 has 42 years to compound before you retire, and the contribution you skip to pay down a 5.8% loan is gone permanently, that year is closed, you cannot go back and contribute. The calculus changes. The debt will be paid either way. The Roth IRA contribution made at 23 will never be available again at any other age. Time is the variable you cannot buy back, and you are standing in the years when time is most valuable. Protect the Roth contribution. Pay the student loan on schedule. Let the formula run in both directions simultaneously, paying down the lower rate debt on its natural timeline while building the investment that has the longest runway available to it. Step 6. Teach this to anyone in your life who is under 25 and has not yet accumulated significant debt. This is not a small thing. The earlier the formula starts running for someone, the less they need to contribute to reach the same destination. A 22-year-old who invests $200 a month starting today will retire with more than a 35-year-old who invests $600 a month starting today at the same rate of return, because the 22-year-old has 13 additional years of compounding at the beginning, the most valuable years, the years when the formula has the most runway. The information in this video is worth more to a 22-year-old than it is to a 37-year-old. Not because the 37-year-old can't use it. Marcus is using it right now and it is changing his trajectory, but because the 22-year-old has the one asset that money cannot purchase later. They have time. And time, inside the compound interest formula, is not a nice to have. It is the variable that determines everything. It is the difference between $452,000 and $108,000 from the same $10,000 investment. It is the difference between a formula that works a miracle and a formula that extracts one. It is the thing Mr. Aldridge was gesturing at when he said most powerful force in the known universe, but the force is not the interest rate, and it is not the principal, and it is not the account type or the investment selection. The force is time. And the cruelest irony in all of personal finance is that the people with the most of it are the people least equipped to understand why it matters. They are 22 and sitting in classrooms that smell like dry erase markers and cafeteria pizza, writing down a formula they will ace on a test and not think about again until they are sitting at a desk at 37, looking at a number that is smaller than it should be, trying to calculate the cost of the years the formula ran in the wrong direction. Marcus ran that calculation. The number was uncomfortable. But the number also told him something the calculation at 23 couldn't have told him, because you need the 37-year-old's perspective to fully feel the weight of the 23-year-old's opportunity. The formula is not finished running. It still has 28 years until Marcus is 65. 28 years of compounding is still an enormous runway. The hockey stick curve still has most of its curve ahead of him, because the back end of compound growth is always where the miracle happens, always where the curve bends upward at a rate that makes the first 20 years look like a flat line. He cannot get back the years the formula ran against him. But he has started pointing it the right way. And the formula, once pointed correctly, does not care how long it took you to figure out which direction to aim it. It just runs.